The first question that arises when we attempt to comprehend the flat Earth model is this: why is it day in one part of the world and night in another? If the Earth were indeed flat, the sun should illuminate all the continents simultaneously and then vanish beneath the disk, casting the entire world into darkness. This reasoning seems entirely logical, and the explanation is valid, yet only because we imagine the sun moving vertically above a flat disk, whereas in this model, it is said to move horizontally. To understand this horizontal motion, we must revisit the model described in the preceding chapter. We stated that the Earth is a disk, or a vast plate whose rim is encircled by a colossal wall of ice. This icy barrier serves as a natural limit, for the further an adventurer presses into its depths, the more he is swallowed by absolute darkness and unrelenting cold. Since none know what lies beyond this barrier, some have speculated that there may exist other lands and other suns. Another perspective, however, contends that at the end of this ice begins a mighty celestial dome, encompassing the entirety of Earth. Evidence, they claim, is found in the aforementioned Operation Dominic, as well as the Go Faster rocket experiment. Yet another sign of this dome is said to be the phenomenon of the mock sun, also known as the phantom Sunday. This rare occurrence manifests as the appearance of one or two secondary suns flanking the true sun when it is 22 degrees above the horizon. The scientific explanation attributes it to high-altitude cirrus clouds, composed of ice crystals, which create the halo commonly seen around the moon at elevations of some 5.5 kilometers. Still, others suggest that the phenomenon is instead the reflection of the sun upon the dome itself under particular atmospheric conditions. Although most of us have never beheld this spectacle with our own eyes, nearly all of us have seen a glimpse of the dome revealed through a phenomenon we know well, the rainbow. In Arabic, Kuzza's bow. It is said that the word Kuzza signifies height. Others claim it is the plural of Kuzza, referring to the arrangement of colors. Yet some maintain that it is one of the names of the devil, as though there were a deliberate attempt to bestow upon this splendid arc a name that conceals its true meaning. In any case, according to the adherents of the flat Earth model, this is the Earth's true form, a flat disk surmounted by a dome wherein the celestial bodies revolve. The sun and the moon in this view are small and nearly equal in size, moving in horizontal, circular orbits above the Earth. Day and night alternate because the sun, being close to the Earth's surface, illuminates only the region directly beneath it as it travels. Consider, for example, the face of a wall clock. If one were to affix a small lamp to the minute hand and extinguish all other lights in the room, the lamp would cast its glow upon only a portion of the dial as the hand turned. With each half rotation, half of the clock face would be illuminated in turn. The idea is the same. The sun, being small and near, circles above and shines upon half of the Earth, leaving the other half at night. Have you noticed that this concept resembles the emblem of the martial art of Kung Fu? It may sound absurd, baseless, and devoid of evidence, yet to some it appears more logical, especially when one observes the sun's rays at winter's dusk piercing the clouds at varying angles. Such a sight, they argue, would be impossible were the sun truly vast and unimaginably distant. If it were indeed a colossal body far away, its rays would fall strictly vertical, without forming any discernible angles to the eye. And so this interpretation seems to them more plausible than the scientific explanation that the 4 seasons occur because our planet is tilted on its axis by 23.5 degrees. How does this tilt cause such a vast difference in temperature between the northern and southern hemispheres if the sun is truly 150 million kilometers away? If it were indeed at that distance, it would warm the entire planet evenly, or at the very least, there would not be such a stark contrast with one hemisphere sweltering in heat while the other shivers in cold. Nor would there be such profound differences in life forms between the two halves of the Earth. They should logically be nearly identical. It seems unreasonable that a mere axial tilt could wield such immense influence over a star of such colossal size and distance. There is, moreover, a remarkable observation. The speed of the sun's apparent motion differs between the northern and southern hemispheres. In the north, sunrise and sunset unfold slowly, while in the south they occur swiftly. This suggests that the sun's path above the northern hemisphere is slower compared to its course above the south, almost as though it were compensating for the vast distance it must cover there, according to the flat Earth model, in order to preserve the 24-hour day. This is also corroborated by its peculiar behavior at the North Pole during the midnight sun phenomenon. And note, well, we shall return to this phenomenon since many point to it as proof of a spherical Earth. It must also be remembered that the flat Earth model we have thus far outlined is merely a simplified sketch, intended only to illustrate the idea. The true model, as its proponents describe it, does not portray Earth as a simple disk, but rather as a vast, boundless land whose limits are unknown. Yet the evidence presented thus far hardly seems sufficient to establish this model, does it? The notion of the sun's circular, horizontal motion does not appear wholly convincing when compared to the idea of it vanishing behind the Earth's curvature. For indeed, the explanation that it disappears because it sinks below the curve of a sphere is more persuasive. It simply sets behind the bend of the globe. True enough. But we might rephrase the statement thus: the sun disappears beyond the horizon. And of course, what applies to the sun applies equally to the moon and to all celestial bodies. Framing the matter in this way leads us to a concept which is claimed we have not been permitted to study in depth: visual perspective. Do you know what the horizon is? It is the boundary of our sight, beyond which we cannot see. The line where sky and earth appear to meet at the level of our gaze. And if you were to travel to that very point you see at the horizon, you would find yet another horizon ahead, and if you turned back, you would see one where you had once stood. These lines, of course, never truly meet. They only appear to do so visually. This is the way we perceive the world around us. It has become so instinctive, so natural, that it now serves as a compelling argument for Earth's curvature. For it is said, if Earth were flat, there would be no horizon, and we would see endlessly. But in truth, mathematics can demonstrate that the horizon appears in the same way, whether the Earth is a vast sphere with a diameter of 6,371 kilometers, or an infinite flat plane. This was explained by mathematicians on the forum Ask a Mathematician. Such an answer is logical once we grasp the notion of perspective, an understanding that, believers claim, reveals to man that he lives upon a stationary, flat surface, not a spinning globe. And they argue that this is precisely why we are not permitted to delve deeply into perspective. The conspirators do not wish us to know how our senses truly operate, lest we awaken to reality. Let us now attempt to simplify this concept, one studied only by artists and architects. But before we do, we must first understand how the human eye perceives the world. If you stand in the center of a long corridor and gaze toward its end, you will notice something curious. The ceiling seems to slope downward as it recedes. The floor appears to rise upward until both meet precisely at the level of your eyes. Meanwhile, the right wall seems to tilt leftward, and the left wall seems to tilt rightward. And if you turn behind you, you will see the very same effect. In truth, the ceiling does not actually descend, nor does the floor truly rise. Yet our eyes perceive them converging at the horizon, just as the right and left walls appear to meet at eye level in a single spot called the vanishing point. We know perfectly well that the ceiling, floor, and walls of the corridor are all parallel, but our vision makes them appear to converge at that point. And as you walk forward, your perspective shifts. When you finally arrive at the position of the vanishing point, you see that the ceiling has not collapsed onto the floor. It was only perspective, the way our eyes perceive the world. Now imagine a cat sprinting from beneath your feet toward the end of the corridor. To your eyes, it will seem to rise upward with the floor until it reaches eye level at the horizon. At first you look down at it, but your gaze gradually lifts until it is directly in front of you. Next, imagine a lamp suspended from a rod along the ceiling, moving back and forth from one end of the corridor to the other. You will see its motion as the mirror image of the cat's. When it is overhead, you look up at it, but as it moves toward the end of the corridor, your gaze drops until it is at eye level. Does that mean the lamp is actually descended from above, or the cat has truly risen from below? Of course not. Though both appear at eye level, the cat remains beneath you and the lamp remains above you. The same principle applies if you stand before a vast field of flowers. Suppose 100 rows stretch 100 meters to your right and another 100 to your left. Though all are parallel to your eyes, they converge until they meet at the horizon, in a vanishing point directly ahead at eye level. The first flower on the row to your right is clearly 100 meters away from you. But where is the last flower of that row? You see it at the horizon, directly before you. Yet in reality, it is still to your right, 100 meters distant. This is simply how vision works. These are the laws of perspective. Now imagine the cat continues running until it passes beyond the vanishing point, or more precisely, beyond the horizon of your sight. Can you still see it? In truth, no. Your eyes cannot tilt upward to see what in reality is below you. The cat is beneath you, yet as it moves farther away, it appears to climb upward with the floor until it reaches the horizon, your maximum limit of sight. Once it passes beyond that horizon, it continues visually to rise higher and thus vanishes from view, as though it were now above your eye level. But does it disappear in an instant like magic? No. It vanishes gradually, from the bottom upward. Its paws go first, passing beyond the horizon, then its body, which lingers briefly at eye level, then its head, until at last the cat is gone beyond the boundary of your sight. At that point, you can only see it again in two ways. The first is to ascend higher yourself, for as you rise, your perspective changes and the horizon shifts farther away, granting you a new, more distant line of sight. The second case, however, is to change our position and move closer to the cat. This is precisely what a telescope does. It carries our vision forward as though we ourselves had advanced bodily, shortening the distance between us and the object of observation. Now replace the cat with a ship and the corridor with a shoreline, and you will see that ships vanish from sight in the very same way, from the bottom upward. Not because of the Earth's curvature, but due to the immutable laws of perspective. This is why we cannot stand upon the shores of Alexandria and gaze upon the people walking in the streets of Italy. As for the lamp hanging from the ceiling, imagine it moving until it passes beyond the horizon line. Could you still behold it? Of course not. At the horizon, it is at your eye level, though in reality, it remains above you. Once it passes beyond the horizon, it continues descending, but now you cannot see it, for your eyes cannot turn downward to perceive what is actually above. What is striking is that the lamp, by logic, ought to vanish from the top downward, the reverse of the cat. Yet it disappears from the bottom upward. This apparent contradiction in the laws of perspective is resolved by the horizon itself, which lies always beneath it, a natural barrier to sight, the surface of the earth. Thus, the lamp fades from view from the bottom upward because of this obstruction. Replace the lamp with the sun, and you will discover that it does not vanish because of the Earth's sphericity, but due to perspective itself. It retreats, carrying its light away, until it passes beyond the horizon and disappears. And now let us return to the question, why does a horizon exist if the Earth is flat? For many claim that the very existence of the horizon proves the Earth's roundness. In truth, however, the horizon we know is powerful evidence that we dwell upon a flat expanse, not a sphere. If the Earth were a globe, the horizon would fall beneath our gaze the higher we rose. Yet this does not occur. Each time we ascend, the horizon remains at eye level. We see it so from our rooftops, from lofty towers and skyscrapers, even from airplanes and high-altitude weather balloons. Always the horizon rises to meet our sight, because it is the horizon of a vast, level Earth, not that of a sphere. But if the Earth is truly flat, and the Sun merely recedes without slipping behind a curve, why does its size not diminish at sunset? Why can we not take a telescope of great power, stand upon the shores of Alexandria, and gaze upon the people of Italy, since the telescope draws us nearer to what we observe? And why, moreover, do the rays of the sun illuminate the undersides of clouds at dusk? Does this not prove it sinks behind a curve? Were it merely retreating, its light could never touch the lower parts of the clouds. Yet here too perspective speaks. As the sun moves farther away, it sinks visually lower, while the clouds nearer to us appear, by perspective, higher. It is thus entirely natural that its rays strike beneath them. You may test this yourself through a simple experiment performed by one researcher. With a table and a small lamp, he demonstrated that when the sun recedes toward the horizon, its light indeed reflects beneath the clouds. As for the question of why the sun does not shrink in size as it sets, though it retreats, and why our telescopes cannot pierce indefinitely into the distance, the answer lies in the air itself. We imagine the atmosphere as weightless, as though it bore no density or moisture. Yet in truth, it is dense and saturated with water vapor. No matter how powerful the telescope, the density of the air inevitably obscures vision. This very density, together with moisture, acts like a lens, preventing the sun from diminishing in apparent size as it sets. If you doubt this, observe carefully. At noon, when the sun stands overhead with little air between you and it, note its size. Then compare it at sunset, when vast layers of atmosphere intervene. You will see that it seems even larger, as though magnified by a colossal lens. I suspect that many more questions now stir within you, about space, satellites, eclipses, the changing of the seasons, and much else. Do not rush. Simply lift the pillow from over your head and resist the dissonance that batters your mind. Open your eyes, for the tunnel is far from its end.